Gregory Patterson sat in his car outside the Grand Riverside Hotel, staring at his phone screen until the words blurred together. The text message glowed in the darkness. Client confirmed. Ms. Morrison will meet you in the lobby at 7 p.m. She'll be wearing red. His hands trembled as he gripped the steering wheel. What was he doing? 3 years ago, he never would have imagined himself in this situation, hiring a woman to pretend to be his date for the evening. But 3 years ago, Caroline was still alive. The charity gala invitation had arrived 2 months earlier, forwarded by his secretary with a gentle reminder that his firm had always supported the children's hospital. Gregory had thrown it in the trash. Then Beverly Harper called, his late wife's best friend, asking if he planned to attend. The concern in her voice made him want to scream. Everyone looked at him that way now, with pity and worry, as if he might shatter at any moment. He retrieved the invitation and called the escort service his business partner had quietly mentioned months ago, the one that catered to people who needed a companion for important events, nothing more. Now, sitting in the hotel parking lot, Gregory wondered if this was the worst decision he'd ever made. Caroline would have hated this. She would have told him to stay home if he couldn't face people, to stop pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. But Caroline wasn't here to tell him anything anymore. She had been gone for 3 years, 2 months and 16 days. Not that he was counting. He checked his reflection in the rearview mirror. The navy suit fit well enough, though he'd lost weight since Caroline's funeral. His brown hair had more gray at the temples than he remembered. At 48 he looked every bit as tired as he felt. The maroon tie was Caroline's favorite color. He'd worn it to make himself feel closer to her, though now it just made him feel pathetic. Gregory forced himself out of the car and walked toward the hotel entrance. The Grand Riverside was one of the finest hotels in the city, all glass and marble and understated luxury. Through the windows he could see the gala already in full swing. Women in evening gowns, men in tuxedos, champagne glasses catching the light from the crystal chandeliers. He used to love events like this. Caroline had made them fun, whispering jokes in his ear about the pompous donors, then charming those same people with her infectious laugh. The lobby was quieter than the ballroom, decorated with elegant flower arrangements and soft lighting. Gregory checked his watch. 7 o'clock exactly. His heart hammered in his chest. Part of him hoped she wouldn't show up. Part of him was terrified she would. Then he saw her. She stood near the reception desk and for a moment, Gregory forgot how to breathe. The woman was absolutely stunning. Her red dress hugged her curves perfectly, elegant and sophisticated without being revealing. She was African American, with flawless dark skin and natural black hair styled in soft curls that framed her face. But it wasn't just her beauty that struck him. It was the way she carried herself, with quiet confidence and grace. She looked like she belonged at events like this, like she'd been born for them. Their eyes met across the lobby and she smiled. It was a warm, genuine smile that made Gregory's anxiety ease just slightly. She walked toward him, her movements fluid and assured. "Mr. Patterson?" Her voice was soft and melodious with just a hint of warmth. "Yes, you must be." He realized he didn't actually know her first name. The service had only referred to her as Ms. Morrison. "Bianca," she said, extending her hand. "It's lovely to meet you." Her handshake was firm and confident. Up close, Gregory could see intelligence in her dark brown eyes, along with something else he couldn't quite identify. Sadness maybe. Or weariness. It surprised him. He'd expected someone playing a role, wearing a mask of cheerfulness. But Bianca looked at him like she actually saw him. "Thank you for coming," Gregory said, then immediately felt stupid. Of course she came. He was paying her. "I mean, I appreciate you helping me with this." "It's what I do," Bianca said simply. "Shall we go over a few details before we go in? It helps if we have our story straight." They sat in a quiet corner of the lobby. Bianca pulled out a small notepad and Gregory noticed her hands. They were elegant, with short, practical nails and no wedding ring. She wore minimal jewelry, just small diamond earrings and a simple watch. "Tell me about your wife," Bianca said gently. "What was her name?" The question caught Gregory off guard. The escort service had briefed her on the basics, he knew. Widower, 3 years, needs a date for a charity event. But asking about Caroline felt different, more personal. Her name was Caroline. Caroline Patterson. She died of breast cancer 3 years ago. The words came out flat, rehearsed from too many repetitions. "I'm sorry," Bianca said, and something in her tone made Gregory believe she meant it. "Were you together long?" 22 years. We met in college." Gregory looked down at his hands. She would have loved this gala. She always supported the children's hospital. Bianca was quiet for a moment, writing something in her notepad. Then she looked up. I won't pretend to be Caroline. I can't replace her and I wouldn't try. But I can help you get through tonight. I can be a buffer between you and the pity, the questions, the well-meaning people who don't know what to say. That's exactly what I need, Gregory said, surprised by her understanding. Good. Bianca closed her notepad. Here's our story. We met 6 months ago through a mutual friend. We've been dating casually, nothing too serious yet. That gives you space if people ask personal questions. And it explains why they haven't heard about me before. Okay. I'll follow your lead. If you want to talk about Caroline, I'll support that. If you want to avoid certain people, just touch my elbow and I'll make an excuse for us to move. If you need a break, we'll take a walk. This is about making you comfortable. Gregory felt something loosen in his chest. The panic that had been building all day eased slightly. You're very good at this. Bianca smiled, but again Gregory saw that flash of something deeper in her eyes. I've had practice. Should we go in? They walked together toward the ballroom. Gregory offered his arm and Bianca took it naturally. Her touch was light but steady. As they approached the entrance, Gregory could hear the buzz of conversation, the clink of glasses, the string quartet playing softly in the background. Mr. Patterson, one more thing, Bianca said quietly just before they reached the doors. Yes. She hesitated and for the first time she looked uncertain. My age isn't a problem, right? The question was so unexpected, so vulnerable that Gregory stopped walking. He looked at Bianca, really looked at her. She was probably in her early 40s, beautiful and poised. Why would she even ask that? Your age? Of course not. Why would that be a problem? Bianca's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Some people have opinions about women like me. What we do. They assume things. Gregory felt a surge of anger, not at her but at whoever had made her feel she needed to ask that question. Anyone who judges you doesn't deserve your time, he said firmly. And your age is perfect. You're perfect for this. Have you ever felt completely alone in a crowded room, surrounded by people who look at you with pity instead of understanding? Have you ever wondered if one moment of kindness could change everything? If this story touches your heart, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means the world and helps us bring more heartfelt stories like this to life. Bianca blinked, and Gregory thought he saw moisture in her eyes for just a second. Then she composed herself and squeezed his arm gently. Thank you. That means more than you know. They entered the ballroom together and Gregory felt something shift. For the first time in 3 years, he wasn't walking into a room alone, facing the pitying stares by himself. Bianca moved beside him with quiet confidence and people noticed. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Gregory saw Beverly Harper's eyes widen from across the room. Here we go, Bianca murmured, her smile bright and warm as she waved to someone Gregory didn't recognize. And despite everything, despite the strangeness of the situation and the weight of his grief, Gregory found himself smiling back. The ballroom was magnificent, decorated in silver and white with thousands of tiny lights hanging from the ceiling like stars. Round tables surrounded a dance floor, each set with fine china and elaborate centerpieces of white roses and greenery. A stage at the far end displayed a large screen showing photos of children who had been helped by the hospital. Gregory felt his throat tighten looking at those young faces, thinking of Caroline and the children they'd never had. Bianca's hand on his arm steadied him. Breathe, she said softly so only he could hear. One step at a time. Beverly Harper descended on them within minutes, her husband Thomas trailing behind. Beverly wore a silver evening gown and her signature pearls, her blonde hair styled in perfect waves. Her face was a mixture of surprise and barely concealed curiosity. Gregory, you came. And you brought. Beverly's gaze swept over Bianca with obvious assessment. Beverly, Thomas, this is Bianca Morrison. Bianca, these are old friends, Beverly and Thomas Harper. Gregory made the introduction smoothly, surprised by how natural it felt with Bianca beside him. It's wonderful to meet you both, Bianca said warmly, extending her hand. Gregory has told me so much about you. You were Caroline's dearest friend, weren't you, Beverly? The mention of Caroline's name could have been awkward, but Bianca said it with such genuine warmth that Beverly's expression softened immediately. We went to college together, actually. Beverly's eyes filled with tears. I miss her every day. Of course you do, Bianca said gently. From everything Gregory has shared, she was an extraordinary person. Thomas cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable the way men often did when emotions ran high. How did you two meet? Through a mutual friend about 6 months ago, Bianca answered easily, sticking to their agreed story. We've been taking things slowly, getting to know each other. Beverly's eyebrows rose slightly, but she smiled. That's wonderful, Gregory. Really wonderful. Caroline would want you to be happy. Would she though? Gregory wasn't sure. Sometimes he felt guilty even thinking about being happy without her. But he nodded and thanked Beverly, and Bianca smoothly changed the subject to the gala's fundraising goals. They made their way through the room, stopping at various tables. Bianca was remarkable. She seemed to know exactly what to say to each person, asking thoughtful questions, laughing at jokes, showing genuine interest in people's lives. She remembered names immediately and made connections between people that Gregory had missed. Several times she steered conversations away from topics that might be painful for Gregory, doing it so subtly that no one seemed to notice. You're really good at this, Gregory whispered as they walked toward their assigned table. Bianca glanced at him. At what? Reading people. Knowing what to say. Making everyone comfortable. It's a skill you develop, she said quietly. When you spend enough time watching people, you learn what they need. They found their table near the front of the room. The other couples were acquaintances from Gregory's business world, people who knew him but not well. They expressed polite surprise at seeing him with a date, made small talk, and then thankfully turned their attention to the program beginning on stage. The event coordinator, a young Hispanic woman named Isabel Rodriguez, welcomed everyone and explained how the evening would proceed. Dinner first, then the auction and donation pledges followed by dancing. Isabel spoke passionately about the Children's Hospital, showing videos of young patients who had received life-saving care. Gregory felt Bianca go very still beside him. He glanced over and saw her watching the screen with an intensity that seemed almost painful. Tears gathered in her eyes, though she blinked them away quickly. Her hand, resting on the table, trembled slightly. Without thinking, Gregory reached over and gently covered her hand with his. Bianca looked at him, startled, then gave him a small, grateful smile. She didn't pull her hand away. Dinner was served, an elegant meal of grilled salmon and roasted vegetables. The conversation at their table was pleasant but superficial, the kind of talk that filled space without saying much. Gregory had always hated this part of formal events, the performing of social pleasantries. But with Bianca there it felt easier. She carried much of the conversation, asking people about their work, their families, their interests. You seem to know a lot about technology, one of the men at their table commented to Bianca. Are you in the field? Bianca hesitated for just a fraction of a second. I have some involvement in tech, yes. It's a fascinating industry. My firm does architectural work for several tech companies, Gregory added, wanting to support her. That's actually how we met, through that world. It wasn't exactly their agreed story, but Bianca nodded and went with it seamlessly. Gregory wondered why she'd been vague about her work. The escort service had mentioned she was educated and professional, but they hadn't given details. After dinner, people began mingling again. The auction hadn't started yet, and the dance floor remained empty. Bianca touched Gregory's elbow. Would you like to get some air? It's getting warm in here. They slipped out through the French doors onto a large balcony overlooking the river. The night was cool and clear, the city lights reflecting on the water. A few other people stood in small groups, talking and laughing, but one end of the balcony was relatively private. Bianca leaned against the railing, looking out at the view. The breeze ruffled her curls gently. In the soft outdoor lighting, she looked younger and somehow more vulnerable than she had inside. Thank you for this evening, Gregory said. You've made it bearable. More than bearable, actually. You're doing well, Bianca replied. Better than you think. I feel like a fraud. Playing pretend, acting like I'm moving on when most days I can barely get out of bed. Bianca turned to look at him. Grief doesn't have a timeline. Anyone who suggests you should be over it by now doesn't understand loss. Do you? The question came out before Gregory could stop it. Understand loss, I mean? Bianca was quiet for a long moment. Yes. I understand it very well. Something in her voice made Gregory think she wasn't just being sympathetic. She knew. She'd experienced real pain, real loss. He wanted to ask more, but something held him back. Instead, Bianca asked, Can I ask you something personal? Of course. Why did you really hire me tonight? It wasn't just about having a date, was it? Gregory sighed. No. It was about not being pitted. About not having to explain myself to everyone who looked at me with those sad eyes, asking how I'm doing in that careful voice people use around grief. I wanted one night where I could just exist without being the tragic widower. That makes sense, Bianca said softly. We all wear masks sometimes. We all pretend to be something we're not, or hide parts of ourselves we think others won't accept. Is that what you do? Gregory asked gently. In your work, I mean? Bianca smiled, but it was sad. Every single day. People see what they expect to see. A woman like me doing what I do, they make assumptions. They think they know my story, my reasons, my worth. What assumptions? That I'm desperate. That I have no other options. That I'm less than somehow. That my age makes me past my prime, that I should be ashamed of myself. Her voice remained steady, but Gregory heard the hurt underneath. That's why you asked me earlier, Gregory said, understanding dawning. About your age. Some clients have made it clear they think 42 is too old for this work. That I should retire, find something more respectable, stop embarrassing myself. Bianca looked down at her hands. My age isn't a problem, right? I meant it when I asked. I needed to know you didn't see me that way. Gregory felt anger rise in his chest again, sharp and hot. Those people are idiots. You're beautiful, intelligent, graceful. You've been kinder to me tonight than anyone has been in years. Your age isn't a problem. You're not a problem. Anyone who can't see your worth is blind. Bianca's eyes glistened with tears again. Thank you, she whispered. You have no idea how much I needed to hear that. They stood together in comfortable silence, looking out at the city. Gregory felt something shifting inside him, like ice beginning to thaw after a long winter. This woman beside him was more than he'd expected. She wasn't just playing a role. She was real, vulnerable, human. Can I tell you something? Gregory asked. Something I haven't told anyone? Please. I'm not okay. Everyone thinks I'm doing fine because I go to work, I pay my bills, I show up to things. But I'm not fine. I'm lonely and sad and angry, and I don't know how to be a person without Caroline. She was my compass, my purpose. Without her, I'm just drifting. Bianca reached out and took his hand. Her touch was warm and steadying. You're allowed to not be okay. You're allowed to drift for a while. But you're still here, Gregory. You showed up tonight even though it was hard. That takes courage. Or desperation, he said with a hollow laugh. Maybe both. But you're here. That matters. They stayed on the balcony for a while longer, talking about small things, safe things. Bianca told him about her favorite books, her love of old movies, her terrible singing voice. Gregory shared stories about his architecture work, the buildings he'd designed, the satisfaction of creating something lasting. They didn't talk about the heavy things, the painful things. They just talked like two people getting to know each other. When they finally went back inside, the auction was starting. Gregory felt lighter than he had in months, maybe years. And when Bianca slipped her hand into his as they walked back to their table, he didn't pull away. The auction was lively and competitive, with donors bidding enthusiastically on vacation packages, artwork, and exclusive experiences. Gregory had already decided to make a modest donation, enough to show support without drawing too much attention. He bid on a golf weekend package, losing to a real estate developer who drove the price up aggressively. Bianca watched the proceedings with interest, occasionally leaning close to whisper observations that made Gregory smile. She had a sharp wit, noticing small details about people's behavior that he would have missed. When a tech executive's wife bid $20,000 on a designer handbag, Bianca murmured, "She's trying to one-up the woman in blue at table 7. Watch, the blue dress will bid on the next item just to prove she can." Sure enough, when a luxury spa package came up, the woman in blue jumped in immediately, driving the price to an absurd level. Gregory found himself laughing, actually laughing for the first time in recent memory. "How do you know that?" he asked. "Body language. The way they keep glancing at each other. You can see the competition." Bianca smiled. "People are fascinating when you pay attention. You should be a therapist or a detective, not." He stopped, realizing how that sounded. "Not an escort?" Bianca finished calmly. "It's okay. You can say it. I didn't mean it as an insult." "I know." Bianca's expression was thoughtful. "But you're not wrong. I could have been many things. I chose this for reasons that might not make sense to most people." "Will you tell me why?" Gregory asked carefully. "If it's not too personal." Bianca was quiet for a moment, watching the auctioneer present a signed sports memorabilia collection. Then she spoke, her voice low enough that only Gregory could hear. "I don't need the money. That's the first thing people always assume, but it's not true. I do this work because it helps me feel human." "Does that sound strange?" "A little," Gregory admitted. "But I'm listening. My regular life is very structured, very demanding. I'm surrounded by people who want things from me, who see me as a means to an end. But when I do this work, when I help someone get through a difficult evening, I'm just a person connecting with another person. There's no agenda beyond kindness. Gregory studied her face. That's a beautiful way to look at it. But it must be hard sometimes. Dealing with people's assumptions, their judgments. It is. But the good moments outweigh the bad. Bianca turned to meet his eyes. Tonight has been a good moment. For me too, Gregory said honestly. I expected this evening to be torture. Instead, I'm actually enjoying myself. The auction continued, with items ranging from reasonable to ridiculous. A week at a beach house, a private cooking class with a celebrity chef, tickets to sold-out concerts. Gregory found himself relaxing, the tension that usually knotted his shoulders easing away. During a break in the bidding, Beverly Harper appeared at their table again, this time with 2 glasses of champagne. I thought you might need refreshments, she said, setting the glasses down. Her smile was genuine but curious. Bianca, could I steal you for just a moment? I wanted to introduce you to some of the other ladies. Gregory tensed, worried about leaving Bianca to face Beverly's inevitable questions alone. But Bianca squeezed his hand reassuringly. I'd love that, she said graciously, standing. Gregory watched them walk away, Beverly's silver gown glinting next to Bianca's red dress. He hoped Beverly wouldn't interrogate her too harshly. Thomas Harper slid into Bianca's empty chair. She seems nice, he said carefully. She is. Beverly was worried about you. We all have been. I know. But I'm okay. Better, actually. Thomas nodded slowly. Good. That's good. Caroline would want you to be happy, you know. She told me that once near the end. She made me promise to make sure you didn't spend the rest of your life alone. Gregory's throat tightened. She said that. She loved you. She wanted you to find joy again even if it was without her. Thomas clapped him on the shoulder. Don't feel guilty about moving forward. Across the room, Gregory could see Bianca talking animatedly with Beverly and 2 other women. She was smiling, gesturing gracefully as she spoke. She fit in perfectly, looking completely at ease in this world of wealth and influence. When she returned 15 minutes later, she was laughing. Beverly is delightful, Bianca said as she sat down. She told me stories about you and Caroline in college. You were quite the prankster, apparently. Beverly exaggerates, Gregory said, but he was smiling. She also gave me her approval in case you were wondering. She said, and I quote, anyone who can make Gregory laugh is good in my book. I haven't laughed much lately. I noticed. Bianca's expression softened. But you're allowed to laugh, Gregory. You're allowed to feel good things without feeling guilty about it. Thomas just said something similar. Then maybe you should listen. The auction ended and the donation pledges began. This was when the biggest money came in, wealthy donors standing to announce their contributions to the Children's Hospital. The amounts were staggering: 50,000, 100,000, $500,000 from one pharmaceutical company CEO. Gregory had planned to donate 10,000, a decent amount that wouldn't draw too much attention. But as he listened to the pledges, he thought about Caroline, about how much she'd loved children, how devastated she'd been when they learned she couldn't have any. I'm going to pledge 25,000, he told Bianca quietly. In Caroline's memory. Bianca's eyes filled with tears. That's beautiful. When Gregory stood and made his announcement, the room applauded. Several people who had known Caroline dabbed at their eyes. Gregory felt emotion wash over him, grief and love and something else, something that might have been peace. As he sat down, Bianca took his hand again. She would be proud of you, she said softly. I hope so. The donation pledges continued. Then something unexpected happened. A tall African-American man in his 50s stood up, a Dr. Gregory recognized as Dr. Franklin Washington, one of the hospital's cardiologists. I'd like to pledge $1 million, Dr. Washington said, his voice strong and clear. In honor of all the people who give without expecting recognition, who help others quietly and consistently. They remind us what true generosity looks like. The room erupted in applause. It was the largest single donation of the evening. Gregory glanced at Bianca and was startled to see tears streaming down her face. She wasn't making a sound, but her shoulders shook slightly. Bianca? Are you okay? She nodded, wiping her eyes quickly. I'm sorry. That was just very moving. But Gregory sensed there was more to it. The way she'd reacted to Dr. Washington's words, the specific mention of people who give without recognition, it seemed personal somehow. Do you know him? Gregory asked gently. Not directly. But I know his work. He's an extraordinary doctor. Bianca composed herself, though her eyes remained bright with tears. Excuse me for a moment. I need to visit the restroom. She stood and walked away quickly, her posture still graceful but somehow fragile. Gregory watched her go, confusion and concern mixing in his chest. What wasn't she telling him? Who was Bianca Morrison really? Gregory sat alone at the table watching the donation pledges continue. His mind spun with questions about Bianca. She was clearly well-educated and comfortable in high society settings. She'd made a comment earlier about being involved in technology, but had been vague about the details. And her reaction to Dr. Washington's donation had been intense, deeply emotional. Maybe she had worked with the hospital before. Maybe she'd lost someone she loved there, a child or a family member. That would explain her tears, her connection to the cause. Gregory felt guilty for prying even mentally. Everyone had their private pain. Bianca returned after about 10 minutes, her composure fully restored. Her makeup was perfect again, no trace of tears. She smiled at Gregory as she sat down. "Sorry about that," she said lightly. "I'm more emotional tonight than I expected." "Don't apologize. It's a moving event." The donation pledges wrapped up, with the total for the evening announced at over $3 million. Isabel Rodriguez thanked everyone enthusiastically, and the string quartet began playing dance music. The lights dimmed slightly, creating a more intimate atmosphere. "Would you like to dance?" Gregory asked, surprising himself. Bianca looked equally surprised but pleased. "I'd love to." They made their way to the dance floor where several other couples already swayed to the music. Gregory placed his hand on Bianca's waist, and she rested her hand on his shoulder. They fell into an easy rhythm, moving together naturally. "You're a good dancer," Bianca observed. "Caroline taught me. I used to step on her feet constantly when we first started dating. She was patient with me." "She sounds like a wonderful person." She was. She had this laugh that would just fill a room. People were drawn to her. "I always wondered what she saw in me." Bianca looked up at him. "I'm sure she saw exactly what I see. A kind, thoughtful man who cares deeply about people. Someone who shows up even when it's hard." "That's rare, Gregory." They danced in silence for a while, the music washing over them. Other couples moved around them, lost in their own worlds. Gregory found himself relaxing into Bianca's presence, enjoying the simple comfort of human connection. "Can I ask you something?" Bianca said after a few minutes. "Anything." "Why architecture? What made you choose that career?" Gregory smiled, thinking back. "When I was a kid, I used to build elaborate structures out of blocks, cardboard boxes, anything I could find. My parents thought I'd be an engineer. But I loved the creative side, the idea of designing spaces where people would live and work and create memories. Architecture felt like a way to leave something lasting in the world." "Have you designed buildings I would know?" "Maybe. I did the Patterson Tower downtown, the technology hub on 5th Street, several office complexes. Nothing famous but solid work." "Patterson Tower? That beautiful building with the glass atrium?" Bianca's eyes widened. "I've been there. It's stunning." "You have?" Gregory felt pleased. "What did you think of the design?" "The natural light, the way the space flows, it's brilliant. Whoever designed it understood that buildings should serve people, not just function as boxes to put people in." Gregory felt a flush of pride. "That's exactly what I was trying to achieve. Most people don't notice those details." "I notice details," Bianca said softly. "It's what I do." They continued dancing, and Gregory found himself studying Bianca's face. She was beautiful, yes, but it was more than that. There was intelligence in her eyes, depth and complexity. She moved through the world with purpose and grace. How had she ended up doing escort work? She could clearly do anything she wanted. "Your turn," Gregory said. "Tell me something about your work. Your real work, I mean whatever that is." Bianca tensed slightly in his arms. "What makes you think I have other work?" "Everything about you. The way you talk about technology, your knowledge of design and business. You're not just an escort. There's more to your story." "Observant," Bianca murmured. "Yes, I have another life. A very different life. But I prefer to keep them separate." "Why?" "Because in one life I'm seen as a commodity. People value me for what I can do for them. In the other life, at least I get to choose who I help and how." She paused. "Does that make sense?" "I think so. But it sounds lonely." Bianca's expression turned sad. "It is. Very lonely. I'm surrounded by people every day, but I rarely feel truly seen or understood." "I understand that feeling," Gregory said quietly. "After Caroline died, I was drowning in sympathy and casseroles and well-meaning advice. But no one really saw me. They saw their idea of grief, their expectations of how I should act. Not the actual person trying to survive each day. Exactly, Bianca said, her grip on his shoulder tightening slightly. You understand. The song ended and another began, slower and more melancholic. Other couples left the dance floor but Gregory and Bianca stayed. They swayed together, barely moving, just existing in the moment. Thank you for tonight, Gregory said. For being here, for being real with me. I know this is your job, but it feels like more than that. It is more than that, Bianca replied. This is the most genuine conversation I've had in months, maybe years. You don't want anything from me except honesty. That's incredibly rare in my world. What do people usually want from you? Bianca sighed. Money, access, status, connections. Sometimes just validation of their own importance. But you just want company, understanding. That's a gift. They danced for 2 more songs, neither wanting to break the spell. The ballroom had mostly emptied out, with donors heading home or gathering in small groups for final conversations. Beverly waved at them from across the room, mouthing something about leaving soon. I should probably say goodbye to people, Gregory said reluctantly. Of course. They left the dance floor and spent the next 20 minutes making rounds. Gregory thanked the organizers, congratulated Dr. Washington on his generous donation, and endured Beverly's knowing smile. Bianca handled it all with grace, charming everyone she spoke with. Finally, they walked together toward the hotel exit. The cool night air felt refreshing after the warmth of the ballroom. Gregory's car was in the parking garage, but he found himself reluctant to end the evening. Can I walk you to your car? He offered. I actually took a car service. But I'd appreciate the company while I wait for it. They stood together under the hotel's covered entrance, watching other guests retrieve their vehicles and drive away. The valet staff hurried back and forth, the sounds of the city night surrounding them. Tonight exceeded my expectations, Gregory said. By a lot. Mine too, Bianca admitted. I thought this would be just another event, just another lonely person needing a companion. But you're different. How? You're kind. You listen. You see me as a person, not a service. Bianca looked up at the sky, though the city lights obscured most of the stars. That's rare in my experience. Then you've been dealing with the wrong people. Bianca laughed softly. Probably true. A black sedan pulled up and the driver rolled down the window. Ms. Morrison? That's me, Bianca confirmed. She turned to Gregory. Thank you again for a lovely evening. Thank you. For everything. Gregory hesitated, then took a chance. Would you consider giving me your number? Your real number, not the service's number. Bianca looked surprised. Why? Because I'd like to see you again. Not as a client, just as someone who enjoyed your company and wants to know you better. For a long moment, Bianca didn't respond. Gregory could see her thinking, weighing the decision. Finally, she pulled a card from her small clutch and wrote a number on the back. This is my personal cell, she said, handing it to him. Call me tomorrow evening if you still want to talk. I will, Gregory promised. Bianca leaned in and kissed his cheek softly. Good night, Gregory. Good night, Bianca. He watched her car drive away, then stood there for a few more minutes, processing the evening. His phone buzzed with a text from Beverly. She's wonderful. Call me tomorrow with details. Gregory smiled and headed for his own car. For the first time in 3 years he felt something other than grief. He felt hope. Gregory didn't sleep well that night. His mind kept replaying moments from the gala, fragments of conversations, the feeling of Bianca's hand in his, her tears during Dr. Washington's speech. He kept looking at the card she'd given him, the phone number written in elegant handwriting. By morning he'd decided to call her, regardless of what that meant or where it might lead. But he wanted to wait until evening as she'd suggested, to give her space and time. The day crawled by. Gregory went to his office, reviewed building plans, met with clients, but his attention was scattered. His business partner, an older man named Richard who'd worked with Gregory for 15 years, noticed immediately. You look different, Richard commented during their afternoon meeting. Less gray somehow. I feel different, Gregory admitted. I went to the hospital gala last night. Alone? No, actually. With someone. Richard's eyebrows rose. Someone? Do tell. Gregory found himself explaining about hiring an escort, expecting judgment but receiving none. Instead, Richard listened carefully, then nodded. And how did it go? Better than I imagined. She was incredible. Smart, kind, perceptive. We talked like real people, not like a transaction. I think I want to see her again. Then you should, Richard said simply. Life is too short to pass up genuine connections. That evening, Gregory sat in his living room staring at his phone. The clock read 7 o'clock. He'd promised to call. But suddenly he felt nervous, uncertain. What if last night had meant something different to her than it had to him? What if she regretted giving him her number? He dialed before he could change his mind. Bianca answered on the second ring. "Hello, Gregory. You knew it was me? I saved your number last night. I was hoping you'd call." Her voice was warm, genuine. Relief flooded through him. "I said I would. I keep my promises." A good quality. He could hear a smile in her voice. "How are you feeling after last night?" "Confused. Happy. Nervous. All of it at once." Gregory leaned back against the couch. "I can't stop thinking about our conversation." "Neither can I." They talked for over an hour about everything and nothing. Bianca told him about her day, though she remained vague about her actual work. Gregory shared stories about his current projects, a library renovation and a new medical center. They discovered they both loved old films, particularly anything by Alfred Hitchcock. They both hated oysters but loved sushi. They both found modern art confusing but appreciated classical pieces. "Can I see you again?" Gregory asked finally. "Not at an event, just for coffee or dinner?" Bianca was quiet for a moment. "I'd like that. But there's something you should know first." "What?" "I'm not who you think I am. My life is complicated, Gregory. If we see each other again, things will get complicated for you too." "I don't mind complicated," Gregory said. "Simple hasn't been working out for me." Bianca laughed, a genuine sound of delight. "Okay then. Let's meet for dinner tomorrow. Do you know the River Cafe? The expensive place by the water?" "That's the one. 7 o'clock. "I'll be there," Gregory promised. They said goodnight and Gregory felt lighter than he had in years. He was taking a risk, opening himself up to potential hurt. But staying closed off hadn't protected him from pain. Maybe it was time to try something different. The next evening, Gregory arrived at the River Cafe 15 minutes early. He wore gray slacks and a blue button-down shirt, trying to look casual but put together. The restaurant was elegant without being stuffy, with large windows overlooking the river and soft jazz playing in the background. Bianca arrived exactly on time, wearing a green dress that complemented her skin beautifully. She looked radiant, her hair styled differently tonight, pulled back to show off her face. When she spotted Gregory, her smile was genuine and warm. "You're early," she observed as they were led to their table. "Nervous habit. You're exactly on time." "I'm never late. It's a rule I live by." They ordered wine and appetizers, falling into easy conversation. But Gregory could sense Bianca's nervousness beneath her composed exterior. She kept touching her necklace, a simple gold pendant, and her smile sometimes looked forced. "Bianca, what's wrong?" he asked gently after their food arrived. She set down her fork carefully. "I need to tell you the truth about who I am. But I'm afraid it will change how you see me." "Try me." Bianca took a deep breath. "I'm not just an escort who happens to be educated. I'm the CEO of Morrison Tech Industries. Have you heard of it?" Gregory nearly choked on his wine. "Morrison Tech? The company that revolutionized cloud computing and data security? That Morrison Tech?" "Yes. You're that Morrison? The billionaire businesswoman who's been on the cover of Forbes and Fortune." Bianca nodded, looking miserable. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I wanted you to know me as just Bianca, not as the CEO, not as the public figure." Gregory sat back in his chair, processing this information. Bianca Morrison. The name suddenly made sense. He'd read about her, seen her photo in business magazines. But she'd looked different in those pictures, more severe and professional, her hair straightened, wearing black business suits. Nothing like the warm, vulnerable woman sitting across from him now. "Why do you do escort work if you're a billionaire CEO?" Gregory asked, genuinely confused. Bianca's eyes filled with tears. "Because running a company is lonely. Because I'm surrounded by people who want things from me every single day. Because I lost myself somewhere along the way, buried under responsibilities and expectations. The escort work lets me be just a person helping another person. It reminds me that I'm human, not just a business machine." "How long have you been doing it?" 5 years. Since my parents died and I inherited their company." Bianca wiped her eyes carefully. "I was 37, barely trained to run a business. But I made it work. I grew the company, made smart decisions, became successful. And I became incredibly lonely." Gregory reached across the table and took her hand. "Thank you for telling me. I know that wasn't easy." "You're not angry I lied?" "You didn't lie. You just didn't tell me everything right away. That's different. Gregory squeezed her hand gently. Can I ask you something? Anything. At the gala, when Dr. Washington made his donation and talked about people who give without recognition, you cried. Does he know about your charitable work? Bianca looked startled. How did you know? I didn't. But your reaction was too intense to be random. You give to the Children's Hospital, don't you? I funded 3 new wings, covered medical costs for dozens of families, and established a research grant, Bianca admitted quietly. But I do it anonymously. I don't want people knowing. They already think I'm trying to buy good publicity. That's why Dr. Washington's words affected you. He was acknowledging your work without knowing it. Yes, Bianca whispered. It was the first time I felt seen for that part of myself in a long time. They talked for hours, their food growing cold as they shared their stories. Bianca told him about her parents, immigrants who built a small tech company from nothing. She described taking over after their sudden death in a car accident, the overwhelming pressure, the constant scrutiny. She explained how she'd stumbled into escort work almost by accident, attending an event for a friend's company and ending up helping a nervous executive get through a difficult presentation. I realized I was good at it, Bianca said. Reading people, helping them feel comfortable. And it felt good to be valued for that instead of for my money or business connections. Gregory shared more about his life with Caroline, the good years and the terrible final months of her illness. He talked about the guilt he felt for still being alive, for sometimes going hours without thinking about her, for considering moving on. She wanted you to move on, Bianca said firmly. From everything you've told me, she loved you too much to want you frozen in grief forever. I know. But knowing and feeling are different things. They are. Believe me, I understand that better than most. As they finished their meal, Gregory felt something settle in his chest. This was real. Whatever was happening between him and Bianca, it was genuine and honest. Complicated, yes, but real. Where do we go from here? He asked. Bianca smiled. I don't know. But I'd like to find out together. They left the restaurant and walked along the river, talking and laughing. Bianca told him about a disastrous meeting where her assistant had accidentally ordered lunch from a pet food company. Gregory shared stories about buildings that went hilariously wrong during construction. They were just 2 people enjoying each other's company, the mask stripped away. When Gregory walked Bianca to her car, a sleek silver sedan that probably cost more than his house, she turned to face him. Thank you for not running away, she said softly. Thank you for trusting me with the truth, Gregory replied. Bianca stood on her toes and kissed him, a real kiss this time, gentle and sweet and full of promise. When she pulled back, they were both smiling. I'll call you tomorrow, Gregory said. I'm counting on it. He watched her drive away, then stood there for a long moment, marveling at how his life had changed in just 2 days. He'd gone to that gala expecting misery and found connection instead. He'd hired an escort and discovered a kindred spirit. Maybe, just maybe, life was full of second chances after all. Over the next 2 weeks, Gregory and Bianca saw each other as often as their schedules allowed. They went to movies, took walks in the park, had quiet dinners at out-of-the-way restaurants. Bianca was careful about being seen in public, worried about paparazzi and business reporters. But gradually she relaxed, trusting that Gregory valued her privacy as much as she did. They talked about everything. Bianca opened up about the pressures of running a multi-billion-dollar company, the constant decisions that affected thousands of employees, the weight of responsibility. Gregory shared his struggles with rebuilding his life after loss, the small victories and frequent setbacks. I lost a major client 6 months after Caroline died, Gregory admitted one evening as they walked through the botanical gardens. I couldn't focus, made mistakes in the design. They went with another firm. It nearly destroyed my business. But you survived, Bianca pointed out. Barely. Richard, my partner, covered for me. We lost money, lost reputation. We're still recovering. Gregory sighed. I feel like I'm failing at everything. Business, personal life, just existing. You're not failing. You're recovering. That's different. Bianca stopped walking and turned to face him. Recovery isn't linear. Some days are better than others. But you're still moving forward. It doesn't feel that way. It will. Trust me. They continued walking, holding hands naturally now. The gardens were beautiful in late summer, flowers blooming everywhere in bursts of color. Other couples strolled by, and Gregory noticed them glancing at him and Bianca, a mixed-race couple still unusual enough to draw looks. Does that bother you? Gregory asked. The stares? I'm used to it. I get stared at all the time for various reasons. My race, my success, my choices. Bianca shrugged. You learn to ignore it. I'm sorry you have to. It's not your fault. It's the world we live in. She squeezed his hand. But moments like this make it worth it. Have you ever wondered what it takes to trust someone with your deepest truth? Have you ever hidden parts of yourself, afraid of judgment? If this story is resonating with you, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement helps us continue creating meaningful stories about connection, hope, and the courage to be vulnerable. Thank you for being here with us. That evening, over dinner at Gregory's house, Bianca finally told him the whole story about her escort work. How she'd started 5 years ago, after a particularly brutal board meeting where she'd been questioned and dismissed despite her success. How a friend had jokingly suggested she try something completely different, just to remember what it felt like to be a regular person. I thought it would be one time, Bianca explained. Just an experiment. But I kept going back. Not for the money, obviously. I donated everything I earned to charity. But for the human connection, the chance to help someone without business complications. Do you still do it? Gregory asked carefully. I haven't taken a client since the gala. Since I met you. Bianca looked down at her hands. I'm not sure I will again. Something shifted that night. You saw me, really saw me, and didn't judge. That's what I'd been searching for all along. I saw you because you let me, Gregory said. You were honest and vulnerable. That takes courage. Or desperation. Maybe both. But I'm grateful for it. They cleaned up dinner together, moving around Gregory's kitchen with surprising ease. Bianca seemed at home here in his modest house with its comfortable furniture and family photos. She studied a picture of Caroline on the mantel, a laughing shot from a beach vacation. She was beautiful, Bianca said softly. Inside and out. She would have liked you. You think so? I know so. She valued kindness and intelligence above everything. You have both in abundance. Bianca's eyes glistened. Thank you. That means a lot. They settled on the couch with coffee, the evening stretching comfortably ahead. Gregory found himself thinking about the future, something he hadn't done in years. Could this work? Could he build a life with Bianca, with all her complications and his grief? What are you thinking about? Bianca asked, noticing his distant expression. The future. Whether this can really work. Do you want it to work? Yes, Gregory said simply. More than I've wanted anything in a long time. Bianca set down her coffee cup and moved closer to him. Then we'll make it work. It won't be easy. My life is complicated and you're still healing. But if we're honest with each other, if we keep communicating, we have a chance. I want that chance. They kissed, a kiss full of promise and possibility. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. There's something else I should tell you, Bianca said. About my business. What about it? We're expanding, building a new headquarters downtown. It's a massive project, one of the biggest construction jobs in the city. We've been reviewing architectural firms for months. Gregory felt his stomach drop. Bianca, if you're about to offer me the job. I am. Your firm is perfect for it. I've reviewed your work, Gregory. You're talented, creative, and you understand how to design spaces that serve people. This is a legitimate offer based on merit. But we're involved. People will say I only got it because we're dating. Let them say it. You'll prove them wrong with your work. Bianca took his hands. I'm not offering this out of pity or obligation. I'm offering it because you're the best person for the job. And because I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself right now. Gregory wanted to refuse. His pride screamed at him to turn it down, to prove he could succeed on his own. But something stopped him. Bianca was offering him not just a job but a lifeline. She believed in his abilities when he'd stopped believing in himself. And refusing would insult her judgment, suggest she couldn't separate personal and professional decisions. Okay, he said finally. I'll do it. But I want to compete for it fairly. Give me the project specs, let me submit a proposal like any other firm. If you still choose me after seeing all the options, then I'll accept with gratitude. Bianca's smile was radiant. Deal. I'll have my team send you the information packet tomorrow. You'll have 6 weeks to prepare your proposal, same as everyone else. Thank you. For believing in me. Thank you for letting me help. I know it's hard for you to accept assistance. It is. But I'm learning. Gregory pulled her close. You're teaching me a lot about accepting help, about not having to carry everything alone. They spent the rest of the evening talking about the project, Bianca describing her vision for the headquarters and Gregory sketching rough ideas. The creative energy between them was electric, both contributing ideas and building on each other's thoughts. When Bianca finally left around midnight, Gregory felt more alive than he had in years. He had a purpose beyond just surviving. He had hope for the future. And he had someone who believed in him, someone he was beginning to care about deeply. That night, Gregory slept peacefully for the first time since Caroline's death, dreaming not of the past but of possibilities yet to come. The next morning, Gregory arrived at his office energized and focused. Richard noticed immediately, commenting that Gregory looked 10 years younger. When Gregory explained about the Morrison Tech headquarters project, Richard nearly fell out of his chair. Morrison Tech? Bianca Morrison? The same woman from the gala? Richard's eyes were wide. Gregory, that's $100 million project. Maybe more. It could save our firm. I know, but we have to earn it. She's giving us a fair chance to compete, nothing more. Still, it's an incredible opportunity. Richard grabbed Gregory's shoulders. We're going to give this everything we have. Let's show them what Patterson architecture can do. They spent the next week reviewing the project specifications that Bianca's team sent over. The headquarters would be a 15-story building in the downtown tech district, housing over 2,000 employees. Morrison Tech wanted cutting-edge design with sustainability features, collaborative workspaces, and natural light throughout. The budget was substantial, but the expectations were even higher. Gregory threw himself into the design work with passion he hadn't felt in years. He sketched concepts late into the night, experimenting with different structural approaches. He wanted something bold but functional, beautiful but practical. He wanted to create a space where innovation could flourish, where employees would feel inspired and valued. Richard handled the technical specifications while Gregory focused on the creative vision. They brought in their best engineers and designers, assembling a team that could turn Gregory's ideas into reality. Everyone in the firm seemed energized by the project, working longer hours without complaint. Meanwhile, Gregory continued seeing Bianca whenever they could arrange it. They were careful to keep their relationship separate from the business proposal. Bianca recused herself from reviewing Gregory's submissions personally, leaving that to her architecture selection committee. It was important to both of them that the decision be based purely on merit. I want you to win because your design is the best, Bianca explained over dinner one evening. Not because we're involved. That's important for both of us. Agreed. If I get this job, I need to know I earned it fairly. You will. The committee doesn't know about us. They'll evaluate all proposals blind, with firm names removed until after the initial round of selections. 3 weeks into the proposal process, Gregory hit a wall. His design wasn't working. It looked impressive on paper but lacked soul, the human element he always tried to infuse into his buildings. He stayed up until 3 in the morning staring at sketches and models, but nothing clicked. Finally, exhausted and frustrated, he called Bianca. I'm stuck, he admitted. The design is technically sound but it feels cold, corporate. I want to create something that reflects your values, your vision for the company. But I can't figure out how. Bianca was quiet for a moment. Tell me, what do you know about my parents? About how they started Morrison Tech? Just what's public record. They immigrated here, started a small tech company, grew it successfully. They came here with nothing, Bianca said softly. My father was a brilliant engineer, my mother was a gifted programmer. But no one would hire them because of their accents, their immigrant status. So they started their own company in our garage. They worked 18-hour days, sacrificed everything to build something lasting. They wanted to create opportunities for other people like them, people who just needed a chance. I didn't know that. Most people don't. We don't advertise our origin story. But that's what Morrison Tech is really about, creating opportunities, believing in people's potential even when others don't. That's what I need this building to reflect. Gregory felt something click in his mind. Opportunity. Potential. Belief. He grabbed a pencil. What if the building itself embodied those concepts? What if it was designed to grow and adapt, to accommodate future needs we can't even imagine yet? Go on. Flexible spaces that can be reconfigured. Natural light to inspire creativity. Common areas designed to encourage spontaneous collaboration between departments. And we could incorporate your parents' story into the design somehow, honor their legacy. Gregory, that's brilliant. Bianca's voice was excited. That's exactly the vision I've been trying to articulate but couldn't quite capture. They talked for 2 more hours, Bianca sharing stories about her parents and their philosophy, Gregory sketching ideas that incorporated those values into concrete design elements. By the time they hung up, Gregory's creative block had shattered. He knew exactly what he needed to do. The next 3 weeks flew by in a blur of intense work. Gregory refined his design, incorporating the themes of opportunity and growth into every aspect of the building. The final proposal was 150 pages long, filled with detailed drawings, sustainability plans, cost analyses, and a narrative explaining the design philosophy. On the day submissions were due, Gregory hand-delivered the proposal to Morrison Tech's office. The receptionist, a young Asian American woman, accepted it with a professional smile, not knowing who he was or that he was dating her boss. "Good luck," she said pleasantly. "Thank you. I'm going to need it." That evening, Gregory met Bianca at her apartment for the first time. It was a stunning penthouse overlooking the city, decorated with modern art and comfortable furniture. But what struck Gregory most were the personal touches: family photos, books on every surface, a wall covered in children's drawings from her hospital visits. "This is beautiful," Gregory said, taking it all in. "It's home. The only place I can truly relax." Bianca poured them both wine. "Your proposal is submitted?" "As of noon today. Now comes the hard part, waiting. The committee will take 2 weeks to review all submissions. They'll narrow it down to 3 finalists who'll present in person. Then they'll make the final decision." "And you really won't know which firm is which until after?" "Not until after the finalists are selected. It's a blind review process designed to prevent bias." Bianca raised her glass. "But I'm confident you'll be one of the finalists. Your work is excellent." "I hope you're right." Gregory clinked his glass against hers. "This project could change everything for my firm. It will change everything regardless of who gets selected. You've rediscovered your passion for architecture. You've proven to yourself that you can still create meaningful work. That's valuable whether you win this contract or not." Gregory realized she was right. The past month, working on this proposal, had reminded him why he'd become an architect in the first place. The joy of creation, the satisfaction of solving complex problems, the hope that his work could positively impact people's lives. He'd forgotten those feelings in his grief. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for giving me this opportunity, for believing in me. Thank you for letting me help. And for seeing me as more than just a CEO or a public figure." Bianca set down her wine glass. "You've given me something precious too, the courage to be vulnerable, to connect with someone honestly." They moved to the couch, sitting close together. Outside the windows, the city lights twinkled like stars. Gregory felt contentment wash over him, a peace he hadn't experienced in years. "I'm falling in love with you," he said suddenly, the words escaping before he could stop them. Bianca's eyes widened, then filled with tears. "I'm falling in love with you too. It terrifies me." "Why?" "Because I've spent 5 years protecting myself, keeping everyone at arm's length. Letting you in means risking heartbreak. But I think you're worth that risk." Gregory pulled her close, holding her gently. "I think you're worth the risk too. And I promise I'll never take your trust for granted." They sat together in comfortable silence, both processing the magnitude of what they'd admitted. This was real now, a committed relationship with all its complications and possibilities. It wouldn't be easy. Bianca's demanding career, Gregory's ongoing grief, the public scrutiny they'd face as a couple. But for the first time, Gregory believed they could navigate those challenges together. "Stay tonight," Bianca whispered. "I don't want to be alone." "Neither do I." They spent the night talking, sharing stories from their pasts, dreams for their futures. When Gregory finally fell asleep in Bianca's guest room around dawn, he felt something he'd thought was lost forever. He felt hope. 2 days after submitting his proposal, Gregory woke to his phone ringing. It was early, barely past 7 in the morning. He grabbed the phone groggily, expecting a work emergency. "Gregory? It's Bianca. I hope I didn't wake you." "You did, but that's okay." "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I was hoping you could come with me somewhere today. It's Saturday, so I assume you're not working?" "I'm free." "Where are we going?" "It's a surprise." "Can you be ready in an hour?" Curious, Gregory agreed. He showered and dressed casually, jeans and a blue polo shirt. When Bianca arrived to pick him up, she was wearing jeans and a simple red blouse, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked younger and more relaxed than he'd ever seen her. "Good morning," she said, kissing him lightly. "Thank you for coming with me." "Mysterious enough? Are you going to tell me where we're going?" "You'll see soon enough." They drove through the city, morning sunlight streaming through the car windows. Bianca was quieter than usual, almost nervous. Finally, they pulled into the parking lot of St. Mary's Children's Hospital, the same facility that had benefited from the charity gala. "We're going to the hospital?" Gregory asked. I volunteer here every Saturday morning, Bianca explained. I spend time with the kids, read stories, play games. I wanted you to see this part of my life. Inside, the hospital was bright and cheerful, decorated with colorful murals and artwork. The staff clearly knew Bianca, greeting her warmly by name. Several nurses hugged her, and a young doctor stopped to thank her for a recent donation that had purchased new equipment. You're amazing with them, Gregory observed as they walked through the corridors. They give me more than I give them. These kids are fighting battles most adults couldn't handle, and they do it with such courage and hope. Being around them reminds me what really matters in life. They spent the next 4 hours in the pediatric ward. Bianca read stories to a group of younger children, their faces lighting up as she did different voices for each character. She played board games with older kids, losing graciously and celebrating their victories enthusiastically. She sat quietly with a teenage girl undergoing chemotherapy, just holding her hand and listening. Gregory helped where he could, feeling awkward at first but gradually relaxing. He found himself talking to a 10-year-old boy named Kevin who was recovering from surgery. Kevin loved architecture, dreaming of designing buildings when he grew up. Gregory showed him photos of his projects on his phone, explaining the design process. That's so cool, Kevin breathed, studying the Patterson Tower image. You made that? It's huge. I designed it. A lot of people work together to build it. I want to do that someday. Make buildings that people remember. You will, Gregory said firmly. Just keep learning, keep dreaming. The world needs good architects. Kevin's mother, watching from nearby, mouthed thank you, with tears in her eyes. Later, Bianca and Gregory walked through the hospital garden, a peaceful space with flowers and benches where families could get fresh air. You were wonderful with Kevin, Bianca said. You gave him hope, showed him his dreams are possible. He's a great kid. Brave and smart. I hope he makes it. He will. His prognosis is good. Bianca sat on a bench, looking tired but content. This is why I do the escort work, you know. And why I'll stop. I was searching for connection, for meaning beyond money and success. But I found that here with these kids. And now with you. You're going to quit the escort work completely? I already have. I submitted my resignation to the service 2 weeks ago. Bianca took Gregory's hand. That chapter of my life is over. I don't need it anymore. I have other ways to connect, to help people. A small voice interrupted them. Miss Bianca? They turned to see a little girl, maybe 6 years old, with a bald head and a hospital gown. She held a stuffed bunny and looked at them shyly. Hello, Emma, Bianca said warmly. How are you feeling today? Better. The doctor said I can go home next week. Emma looked at Gregory curiously. Is that your boyfriend? Bianca glanced at Gregory then smiled. Yes, he is. This is Mr. Gregory. Hi, Mr. Gregory. Are you nice to Miss Bianca? I try to be, Gregory said seriously. She deserves someone who's very nice to her. Emma nodded approvingly. Good. Miss Bianca is the best. She reads the funny voices and brings us books and never forgets our names. She sounds pretty special, Gregory agreed. She is. Emma hugged her bunny. When I grow up, I want to be just like her. Helping people and being kind. Bianca's eyes filled with tears. She knelt down and hugged Emma gently. You're already kind, sweetie. You have the most important part already. Emma skipped away after a nurse called for her, and Bianca wiped her eyes. Sorry? I get emotional here sometimes. These kids just have such pure hearts, such unshakable hope. It humbles me. It should humble all of us, Gregory said. They face things we can't imagine and still find reasons to smile. They stayed at the hospital until early afternoon, then drove to a quiet cafe for lunch. Over sandwiches and coffee they talked about the morning. Thank you for bringing me, Gregory said. For sharing that part of your life with me. Thank you for coming. And for being so good with the kids. Kevin won't stop talking about you, according to his mother. He reminded me why I became an architect. To create things that inspire, that give people something to dream about. I'd lost sight of that. You're finding it again, Bianca observed. I can see it in your work, in the proposal you submitted. You're remembering your purpose. Gregory realized she was right. Somewhere along the way between meeting Bianca and working on the Morrison Tech proposal and spending time with sick children who still believed in the future, he'd started healing. The grief wasn't gone. It would never be gone. Caroline would always be part of him. But the suffocating weight of that grief had eased, making room for other emotions. Joy. Hope. Love. I never thought I'd feel this way again, he admitted. After Caroline died, I assumed I'd just exist for the rest of my life. Going through motions, surviving but not living. You've changed that. You've changed it, Bianca corrected gently. I just reminded you that you're allowed to feel good things. You chose to open yourself up to take the risk. That takes courage. Or desperation. Bianca laughed. Maybe both. But it's working. They spent the rest of the day together, driving to the beach and walking along the shore. The weather was perfect, sunny but not too hot, with a gentle breeze. They talked about everything and nothing, completely comfortable in each other's company. As the sun began setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Gregory pulled Bianca close. I love you, he said simply. I know it's fast, but I love you. You make me want to be fully alive again. Bianca smiled, tears streaming down her face. I love you too. So much it scares me. But I'm choosing to be brave, to believe this is real and lasting. They kissed as the sun set, and Gregory felt something shift permanently inside him. He was moving forward, not forgetting Caroline but honoring her by choosing to live fully. And he was doing it with a woman who challenged him, supported him, and saw him completely. Whatever happened with the Morrison Tech proposal, whatever challenges lay ahead, Gregory knew he'd be okay. Because he'd remembered how to hope, how to love, how to believe in better tomorrows. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, 2 weeks after Gregory submitted his proposal. He was in his office reviewing sketches when his secretary buzzed him. Mr. Patterson, Morrison Tech is on the line. They want to schedule a presentation. Gregory's heart raced. Put them through. A woman's voice, professional and efficient, explained that his firm had been selected as one of 3 finalists. They were invited to present their proposal to the Architecture Selection Committee the following week. Gregory thanked her, managed to sound calm and professional, then immediately called Richard. We're in. Gregory shouted. We made it to the final 3. Richard whooped loudly, and Gregory heard the entire office cheering in the background. They'd all worked so hard on this proposal, and making it to the finals was a victory regardless of what happened next. That evening, Gregory met Bianca at a small Italian restaurant. She was already seated when he arrived, looking beautiful in a maroon dress. Her eyes sparkled with barely contained excitement. I heard, she said as soon as Gregory sat down. Congratulations. The committee was very impressed with your proposal. You're not supposed to know yet, Gregory pointed out, though he was grinning. I found out through official channels. My assistant told me 3 firms were selected for final presentations. Bianca took his hand. But she didn't tell me which firms. That information stays confidential until after the presentations. It feels surreal. We haven't landed a project this big in years. You earned it. Your design was one of the strongest proposals they received, and they received over 20. Bianca squeezed his hand. But the hard part is still ahead. The presentation has to be perfect. For the next week, Gregory and Richard prepared obsessively. They built a detailed scale model of the proposed headquarters. They created a presentation that walked through every aspect of the design, from the structural engineering to the sustainability features to the symbolic elements honoring Bianca's parents' legacy. They practiced their delivery dozens of times, refining every word and gesture. Bianca offered to help, but Gregory declined, wanting to keep that boundary clear. She respected his decision, though she clearly wanted to be involved. I trust you, Gregory said. But I need to do this part on my own. It's important that I win or lose based on my own merit, not because you coached me. I understand. Just know that I believe in you completely. The day of the presentation arrived, sunny and warm. Gregory wore his best suit, navy with a maroon tie in tribute to Caroline. Richard wore charcoal gray. They arrived at Morrison Tech's current headquarters an hour early, using the time to review their notes one final time. The building was impressive, a modern glass structure in the tech district. Inside, everything was sleek and efficient, with open workspaces and collaborative areas. Gregory could see Bianca's influence in the design, the emphasis on community and creativity. They were led to a large conference room where the Architecture Selection Committee waited. 6 people sat around an oval table, a mix of Morrison Tech executives and outside consultants. Gregory scanned the faces, relieved that Bianca wasn't there. She kept her word about staying out of the selection process. For the next 90 minutes, Gregory and Richard presented their vision for Morrison Tech's new headquarters. Gregory spoke passionately about the design philosophy, explaining how every element reflected the company's values of opportunity, innovation, and community. He showed how the flexible spaces could adapt to future needs, how the sustainable features would reduce environmental impact, how the public areas would foster collaboration and creativity. The committee asked tough questions. They challenged cost estimates, questioned structural decisions, pushed back on design choices. But Gregory had answers for everything, defending his vision with confidence and data. Richard handled the technical questions brilliantly, proving they'd thought through every detail. When they finished, one of the committee members, an older black woman who'd been taking notes throughout, looked up and smiled. "Gentlemen, that was one of the most compelling presentations I've seen in my 30 years of evaluating architecture proposals. You've clearly put your hearts into this project." "Thank you," Gregory said, trying to keep his voice steady. "This building means everything to us. It represents not just a structure but a vision for how workplaces can inspire and empower people." The committee thanked them and explained the timeline. They'd make a decision within the week, contacting all 3 finalists simultaneously. Gregory and Richard left feeling cautiously optimistic but trying not to get their hopes up. That evening, Gregory finally saw Bianca again. She'd been giving him space during the preparation and presentation, understanding he needed to feel he'd done this on his own. Now she met him at his house with Thai takeout and a bottle of wine. "How did it go?" she asked, though she must have already heard from her team. "It went well. Really well. But the other firms are probably strong too." "They are. But you have something they don't." Bianca served them both pad thai, the spicy aroma filling the kitchen. "What's that?" "You understand what this building represents. It's not just a headquarters. It's a statement about who Morrison Tech is, what we value, what we hope to build. Your proposal captured that in a way the others didn't." "You read the proposals?" Gregory asked, surprised. After the finalists were selected, yes. The committee sent them to me for final input. "And yours was extraordinary, Gregory. The story about my parents, the way you wove their journey into the building's design, it moved me to tears. I wanted to honor them. They built something remarkable and their daughter is continuing that legacy. The building should reflect that story." They ate in comfortable silence for a while, both tired from the stress of the past weeks. Finally, Bianca spoke again. "I have something to tell you. About the selection process." Gregory's stomach tightened. "What about it?" The committee voted. "You won. Unanimously. They want Patterson Architecture to design the new headquarters." Gregory set down his fork, processing this information. "When did they decide?" "This afternoon, after the last presentation. The other firms were excellent, but yours was clearly the strongest." "You earned this, Gregory." Relief and joy and disbelief washed over Gregory all at once. His firm had won the biggest contract of his career, a project that would establish them as major players in commercial architecture. It would bring in enough revenue to secure their future for years. It would prove he could still do exceptional work, despite his grief and struggles. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll accept. Say you'll pour your heart into making this building everything it can be." Bianca reached across the table and took his hands. "And say you'll let me help, not as your client but as your partner." Gregory felt his throat tighten with emotion. "I accept. With gratitude and humility. Thank you for believing in me, for giving me this chance. Thank you for trusting me enough to let me help. I know it wasn't easy for you." They celebrated quietly that evening, not with champagne and parties but with simple companionship. Gregory called Richard to share the news, listening to his partner's whoop of joy and disbelief. He imagined calling Caroline, sharing this victory with her, and felt the familiar pang of grief. But it was softer now, mixed with gratitude for the years they'd had together and acceptance that life continued forward. Later, as they sat together on the couch, Bianca resting against Gregory's shoulder, she spoke softly. "There's something else I want to offer you. Something beyond the headquarters project." "What's that?" "My foundation has been looking to establish a scholarship program for architecture students. I'd like to name it the Caroline Patterson Memorial Scholarship, in honor of your wife. It would help students who show exceptional promise but lack financial resources to pursue their dreams." Gregory felt tears sting his eyes. "Bianca, that's incredibly generous. But it's a lot of money." "Money I have. What I don't have is a better way to honor a woman who clearly valued education, opportunity, and helping others. Will you accept?" Gregory thought about refusing, about his pride and independence. But then he remembered the lessons of the past months. Accepting help wasn't weakness. It was trust, connection, partnership. It was allowing others to show love through actions. "Yes," he said firmly. "I accept with deep gratitude. Caroline would have loved this. She always wanted to help young people achieve their potential. Then we'll do it together. You can help select the scholarship recipients, mentor them if you'd like. Make it something meaningful. They spent the rest of the evening planning, discussing the scholarship details and the headquarters timeline. But beneath the practical talk, something deeper was happening. They were building a life together, brick by brick, decision by decision. They were proving that second chances existed, that love could bloom even in the soil of loss and pain. When Bianca left that night, kissing Gregory goodbye at the door, he stood for a long moment looking at the stars. Caroline was up there somewhere, he liked to think. And he hoped she was happy for him, proud that he'd found a way to keep living fully. "Thank you," he whispered to the night sky, "for the years we had. For teaching me how to love. For showing me it's okay to open my heart again." The stars twinkled silently, and Gregory felt peace settle over him like a blanket. He was ready for whatever came next. 6 months passed in a whirlwind of activity and emotion. Gregory's firm officially signed the contract with Morrison Tech, and work began immediately on the headquarters design. Gregory threw himself into the project with renewed passion, spending countless hours perfecting every detail. The building was taking shape beautifully, a stunning structure of glass and steel that managed to be both modern and warm, professional and inviting. Richard handled most of the day-to-day project management, giving Gregory space to focus on the creative elements he loved most. They hired 3 new architects and 2 engineers, expanding the firm significantly. The Patterson Architecture office buzzed with energy and purpose, everyone excited to be part of something this meaningful. Meanwhile, Gregory's relationship with Bianca deepened and evolved. They spent almost every evening together, either at his house or her penthouse. They cooked meals together, watched old movies, took long walks. Bianca officially stopped doing escort work, finding fulfillment instead through her volunteer work at the hospital and her growing relationship with Gregory. The Caroline Patterson Memorial Scholarship was established with much fanfare. The first 5 recipients were selected, all talented architecture students from underprivileged backgrounds. Gregory mentored them personally, meeting with them monthly to discuss their studies and career goals. Seeing their excitement and gratitude reminded him why he'd chosen this field, why creating beautiful, functional spaces mattered. "You're an excellent teacher," Bianca observed after one mentoring session. "Have you ever thought about teaching?" "Maybe someday. Right now, I'm focused on the headquarters. But in the future, passing on knowledge to the next generation sounds rewarding." They talked openly about the future now, about plans and dreams and possibilities. They discussed where they might live, whether to stay in the city or find something quieter. They debated vacation destinations and favorite restaurants. They were building a shared life, piece by piece. The public revelation of their relationship came gradually. Beverly Harper figured it out first, of course, cornering Gregory at a coffee shop and demanding details. When Gregory admitted he was dating Bianca Morrison, the Billionaire CEO, Beverly nearly choked on her latte. "You're dating Bianca Morrison?" Beverly repeated, eyes wide. "The Bianca Morrison? Gregory, do you understand who she is?" "I understand she's brilliant, kind, and makes me happy," Gregory replied calmly. "That's all that matters to me. But she's worth billions. She's powerful and famous. And you met her how?" Gregory decided honesty was best. "I hired her as my date to the charity gala. She does escort work occasionally. Or did." She stopped now. Beverly looked stunned, then thoughtful. "Well, that's unexpected. But if she makes you happy, then I'm happy for you." The media attention came next, inevitable once Gregory and Bianca started appearing at public events together. Business reporters wanted to know about their relationship, whether it had influenced the headquarters contract. Bianca handled it gracefully, explaining the blind selection process and showing documentation that proved Patterson Architecture had won on merit alone. "Perception matters in business," Bianca explained to Gregory. "But truth matters more. We have nothing to hide." Gregory agreed, though he found the scrutiny uncomfortable. Photographers followed them occasionally, and gossip websites speculated about their relationship. But the initial media frenzy died down after a few weeks, especially when no scandals or controversies emerged. Now, 6 months after that first gala, Gregory stood in Morrison Tech's temporary presentation center, looking at the full-scale model of the new headquarters. The building was magnificent, rising 15 stories with a stunning glass atrium at its center. Natural light would flood the interior spaces, and the flexible design allowed for future modifications as the company grew. On the ground floor, a memorial plaque would honor Bianca's parents, telling their story of immigration and entrepreneurship. "It's beautiful," Bianca whispered, standing beside him. "Everything I hoped it would be. It's not finished yet. We still have months of work ahead." "I know. But I can see the vision now. You've created something extraordinary. Today was the public unveiling of the design, with city officials, business leaders, and media representatives attending. Gregory had given dozens of presentations in his career, but this one felt different. More important. More personal. The room filled with guests, everyone chatting and admiring the model. Gregory saw Dr. Franklin Washington arrive, along with several board members from the Children's Hospital. Beverly and Thomas Harper were there, smiling and waving. Richard stood near the entrance, greeting people and directing them to refreshments. Isabel Rodriguez, the event coordinator from the gala, handled the logistics with her usual efficiency. She'd become a friend over the past months, often joining Gregory and Bianca for dinners. She gave Gregory a thumbs up as the presentation time approached. Finally, Bianca stepped to the microphone. She wore a stunning green dress and looked every inch the powerful CEO she was. But when she spoke, her voice was warm and personal. Thank you all for coming today. 6 months ago, Morrison Tech announced plans for a new headquarters, a building that would reflect our values and support our continued growth. We received over 20 proposals from excellent architecture firms. But one proposal stood out, not just for its technical merit but for its vision and heart. Patterson Architecture understood that this building is more than just a workplace. It's a statement about who we are and what we believe in. Bianca gestured to Gregory, who stepped forward nervously. I'd like to introduce Gregory Patterson, the lead architect on this project. He's going to walk you through the design and explain the thinking behind it. Gregory took the microphone, his hands shaking slightly. He glanced at Bianca, who gave him an encouraging smile. Then he looked out at the crowd and began to speak. This building is a story, Gregory said. It tells the story of 2 immigrants who came to this country with nothing but talent and determination. It tells the story of their daughter, who inherited their company and grew it into an industry leader. And it tells the story of everyone who will work in this building, creating innovations that will shape our future. For the next 30 minutes, Gregory explained the design philosophy, highlighting features that embodied Morrison Tech's values. The flexible workspaces that could adapt to changing needs. The sustainability features that minimized environmental impact. The collaborative areas designed to foster creativity and community. The memorial to Bianca's parents, honoring their journey and sacrifice. The audience was captivated, asking thoughtful questions and offering enthusiastic applause. Several people approached Gregory afterward, complimenting the design and requesting his firm's contact information for future projects. Richard was beaming, already talking to potential clients. But the moment Gregory would remember most came at the end of the event. As guests were leaving, a young Asian American woman approached him. She introduced herself as Rebecca Chin, the tech reporter who'd recognized Bianca at the gala months ago. Mr. Patterson, that was an inspiring presentation. May I ask you a personal question? Of course. How did you and Ms. Morrison meet? I've heard various rumors, but I'd like to know the truth. Gregory glanced at Bianca, who was talking with Dr. Washington nearby. He thought about lying, protecting her privacy. But they'd decided months ago to be honest if asked directly. We met at a charity event. She was working as an escort that evening, and I had hired her as my date. We connected genuinely, discovered we had a lot in common, and started seeing each other. Rebecca's eyebrows rose. That's quite a story. It is. And it's the truth. Bianca is an extraordinary woman who happened to do escort work for personal reasons, not financial necessity. She stopped that work now, but I'm grateful she was doing it that night. Otherwise, I might never have met her. And the headquarters contract? Was awarded through a blind selection process. My firm competed fairly against other qualified candidates and won based on the strength of our proposal. You're welcome to review the documentation if you'd like to verify that. Rebecca nodded slowly. I believe you. Thank you for being honest. It's refreshing. We have nothing to hide. Bianca and I love each other. That's what matters. Rebecca thanked him and walked away, presumably to write her article. Gregory felt relieved, glad they'd been forthright. The truth was always simpler than trying to maintain lies. As the last guest departed, Bianca joined Gregory by the model. You were wonderful, she said, slipping her hand into his. Thank you. For everything. For this opportunity, for believing in me, for being patient while I healed. Thank you for opening your heart, for taking a chance on us. They stood together in the empty presentation center, admiring the model of the headquarters. Construction would begin in 2 months, with completion targeted for 18 months later. It was a massive undertaking, but Gregory felt ready for the challenge. What are you thinking about? Bianca asked. The future. How a year ago I couldn't imagine having one. And now I can't wait to see what comes next. Speaking of the future, Bianca said, her voice suddenly nervous. I have something to ask you. Before Gregory could respond, Bianca reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet box. She opened it to reveal a simple platinum band. Gregory's heart stopped. Bianca, what? I know this is supposed to go the other way with you proposing to me. But I've never been traditional and I don't want to wait. Gregory Patterson, you've changed my life. You've shown me what real partnership looks like, what it means to be truly seen and valued. You've helped me find purpose beyond business success. I love you more than I thought possible and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? The room seemed to tilt and spin. Gregory looked at Bianca, at her hopeful, vulnerable expression, at the love shining in her eyes. He thought about Caroline, about the life they'd shared and the grief that had nearly destroyed him. He thought about Bianca, about how she'd pulled him back from the edge and shown him joy was still possible. Yes, he said, his voice breaking with emotion. Yes, I'll marry you. I love you, Bianca. You've given me back my life. Bianca slipped the ring on his finger, tears streaming down her face. They held each other tightly, both crying and laughing at the same time. I was so afraid you'd say no, Bianca whispered. Never. You're the best thing that's happened to me in years. Maybe ever. They kissed, a long, tender kiss full of promise and commitment. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling through their tears. Should we tell people now? Gregory asked, looking at the ring on his finger. Let's wait a bit. Enjoy this moment, just the two of us. Bianca took his hand. Come on. Let's go home. They walked out of the presentation center together, hand in hand into the bright afternoon sunshine. Photographers were still lingering outside, hoping for a good shot. They raised their cameras as Bianca and Gregory emerged. Ms. Morrison. Mr. Patterson. Any comment on the headquarters design? Bianca glanced at Gregory, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Actually, yes. We have an announcement. Gregory's eyes widened. Bianca, we said we'd wait. I changed my mind. Life's too short for waiting. Bianca turned to the reporters, her voice clear and strong. Gregory Patterson has agreed to marry me. We're engaged. The reporters erupted with questions, cameras flashing furiously. But Gregory barely noticed. He was looking at Bianca, at the woman who'd taken a broken, grieving man and helped him remember how to hope, how to love, how to live. Are you sure about this? He asked quietly, even as reporters shouted questions around them. I've never been more sure of anything, Bianca replied. I love you, Gregory. I want the world to know it. Gregory pulled her close and kissed her again, ignoring the cameras and questions. This was their moment, their story, their future. And for the first time in years, that future looked bright and full of possibilities. Later that evening, after escaping the reporters and fielding dozens of congratulatory calls, Gregory and Bianca sat together on her penthouse balcony, watching the city lights twinkle below. Gregory couldn't stop looking at the ring on his finger, still processing everything that had happened. Are you okay? Bianca asked, noticing his quiet contemplation. I'm more than okay. I'm happy. Actually, genuinely happy. Gregory turned to face her. A year ago, I thought happiness was something in my past, something I'd lost forever with Caroline. But you've shown me I was wrong. Happiness isn't something that happens once and then ends. It's something we choose over and over every day. That's beautiful, Bianca said softly. It's true. And I choose this, Bianca. I choose us. Every single day. They sat together under the stars, planning their wedding, discussing their future, dreaming about all the possibilities ahead. And somewhere in the night sky, Gregory imagined Caroline smiling down at him, happy that he'd found love again, proud that he'd chosen to keep living fully. Life wasn't about forgetting the past or pretending pain never happened. It was about honoring what came before while embracing what came next. It was about finding courage in the darkest moments and hope in unexpected places. It was about kindness, compassion, and the transformative power of love. Gregory had learned all of this through his journey with Bianca, and he would carry these lessons forward into their shared future. Together, they would build a life as solid and enduring as the buildings Gregory designed. Together, they would create something beautiful and lasting. And it all started with a simple question at a charity gala. My age isn't a problem, right? That moment of vulnerability had opened doors neither of them expected. It had led to connection, understanding, healing, and ultimately love. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is show our true selves, fears and all, and trust that someone will see us, accept us, and choose us anyway. Bianca and Gregory had chosen each other, and in doing so, they'd created something rare and precious. A second chance at happiness. A new beginning built on honesty, respect, and genuine partnership. As the night deepened and the city continued its restless hum below, they sat together in comfortable silence, content just to be. The past had shaped them, the present embraced them, and the future stretched ahead full of promise. And that, Gregory thought, was the greatest gift of all.